Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws 30A, Section 18, and Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 revised order extending a remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Great Barrington Finance Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so based on the instructions at the top of the agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C 30A Section 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. And in terms of recordings, what are we aware of right now? And Anne, you're on mute.
The town is doing a recording. I will set up an audio recording just as a backup here. So
Okay, backup to the backup.
backup to the backup. Okay.
All right, so we'll call the meeting to order with a roll call vote. Anne?
Aye.
Milena?
Aye.
Madonna?
Aye.
And Phil Orenstein, and I'm present. Committee members' announcements or statements. Anyone have anything? Just a very brief technological update is I now, after a few fits and starts, have the finance committee email that's on the town website is now landing nicely onto my phone. So I will promise if anyone sends us an email to the committee, I will do my best to promptly respond, which probably did not happen in the past as well as quickly as it should. But so that's working much better right now. Okay, so first on the agenda would be the approval of the minutes, and we are a bit behind on that. So we have 3 minutes to approve. So
Bill?
yes.
Are you going to go one by one?
I'll do one by one. I think it's easier.
Okay.
All right. So we have going back to April 4. And that is a somewhat abbreviated set of minutes, but it is correct.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for Tuesday, April 4th.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Anne?
Aye.
Madonna?
Aye.
Milena?
Aye.
And I approve it as well. Moving on to May 25th. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of May 25th.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I have one change in the town manager update. The transcription doesn't have Chief Storti as the actual name, and I think it should be STORTI.
Oh, there's a typo. I see it. Yep.
It's just a typo, but I think it's really important since he is the chief.
Yep.
I would agree. And did I hear you correctly that you're volunteering to?
Yeah, that's fine. I
make
can do
that
that.
change?
Yeah. And Phil, why don't we agree? I'll send all 3 of these on once, and assuming they're all get approved. So
Okay, they'll send them to the town.
Yeah.
And send them to Stacy as well, just so she knows.
Okay. Yeah.
That it's been done. We've got a little confusion on that. Okay, so we have that one comment. Any other comments on that? Seeing none, roll call vote. Anne?
Aye.
Madonna?
Aye.
Milena?
Aye.
And I approve it as well. And then the other one is June 21st. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of June 21st.
Second,
Okay, any discussion? Roll call vote, Anne,
Aye.
Madonna,
aye.
Milena,
Aye.
and I approve it as well. So all the minutes are approved. Okay, okay, any Allison or Mark, is there any updates you would like to provide us with?
Well, I can just give an update on my new full-time assistant accountant. I'm really happy to report that Carmen Morales has started working full-time assistant town accountant as of July 1st. She and I are working together to streamline many of the accounting processes. Together, we've worked on creating uniform internal PDF fillable forms for all the departments to use. We've also prepared and implemented accounting policies and procedures effective July 1st to ensure consistency and accuracy of all the town transactions. We've also deployed a new filing system within our department to make researching accounts payable invoices much easier for our departments and our independent auditors to find. In the coming year, we have several other projects that we will be working on together. She has required very limited training and has been able to provide the highest standard of work output with respect to the daily workflow of the accounting department. Carmen's experience and work ethic have made it very easy to just hit the ground running.
And Ellie, where did she come from? What was her background?
She formerly was in the select board's office,
Uh-huh.
and that she worked in the accounting office for the city of Pittsfield.
Oh, great. Okay.
She has experience in accounts payable, so I'm really happy.
Okay.
Yeah, you look happy.
Yeah, no, I'm not ashamed to say that all sounds terrific.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're doing all the right things to sort of get things smooth. I know you're working on the year-end information at some point in the future. Just rewinding the tape a bit before you arrived. We would typically have some type of budget report included in our agenda package. So I know you're in the midst of you've been in the midst of a transition, and now you've been in the midst of a year-end closing. So whenever the time is right, we'd like to resume that. You tell us. We have another meeting in a month. If that's right, that would be good. If not, then you just tell us.
What I will do is when I close the fiscal year, it will update all the numbers, and then I can send you July and August, at least so that we're caught up, and then we'll be ready to roll for the next meeting, hopefully.
Okay,
If all
terrific.
goes well, fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, you know, you have a lot on your plate, so I appreciate that.
And I guess, sorry to jump in on this, but Ellie, will we also get sort of a year out closing too? Or I'm assuming we get some sort of final report for the year out closing, or no?
I can give you reports for June as well, so you can see how.
Yeah, yeah. Just to see where we ended up.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Sure.
Then the next page is, you know, there's no urgency to it. I just thought it'd be just interesting and timely and maybe helpful down the road to just take a look at our sort of an update on our cannabis revenues, given that we have the end of the year data. I was able to get this from the state, and I confirmed it with Alicia that these are correct numbers. So as has been bandied about a bit, just in the gossip mill, I mean, the tax revenues for the 3% local option tax are down about 36% from the prior year for the fiscal year ending in June.
Philip, would you like me to share my screen?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, please do that. Yeah, I was yes. Yeah, I was looking at my screen and I assumed that it was shared, and it was not. So please do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there it is. Yeah, that's much better. Thank you. So yeah, so this is just cannabis revenue, the 3% local option tax, which is the money that goes into our free cash. So this is basically that revenue since the inception of legal cannabis sales in town by quarter and by year. So the second to last column from the right is the annual total. And so you can see for fiscal 22, that number is approximately 2.1 million. And now for this year, for the year that just concluded in June, it was about 1.35 million. So the good news is that as Ann knows from a lot of prior discussions, this lower number will only sort of reflect itself in our town finances for beginning in fiscal 25, if I'm getting that correct. So, you know, Ashley, so for our upcoming budget season in the winter, we'll be benefiting from that higher number in fiscal 22, which is roughly 2.1 million. So hopefully I
And,
haven't confused you,
sorry,
but go ahead, Mohit.
Phil, what is the reason for the delay? Is it like an accounting issue or?
Well, I'll let Allison answer properly, but the way I look at it is it basically takes a while for the state to confirm that these numbers are correct and to authorize the town to use that
Oh, I
money.
see. Okay.
Would you agree, Allison?
Yeah, the FY22 line would have closed out to the free, it's included in the free cash that was certified for FY23. The FY23 will be in the certified for 24, which is exactly what you said, Phil,
Okay.
in FY25.
So Ashley Ann prepared a very nice flow chart on that a couple of years ago that helps us keep it all straight. So if anyone wants that, we could send it to you, but there's just a 2-year lag on that.
Okay, thanks.
So again, so this will just be more, this will come up in the future, but I think it's just, there's been a lot of, I think there's just been references to the fact that this number has peaked and is sort of on the way down a bit for a wide variety of reasons that you know, you could speculate on. It's not particularly relevant, but the number is coming down. So that's sort of just something to keep on the horizon. All right. All right. So you have the packet up on the share, right? Right, Mark? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, on to the next topic. Actually, so I think our meeting may be relatively brief tonight for a couple of reasons, but with respect to the proposed property transfer fee, as some of you may or may not know, last night at the select board, there was a vote on this. Last night at the select board meeting, the select board, in terms of how to.
Sorry, that was my bad. Sorry,
Okay.
Phil.
All right.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. The select board had a number of potential avenues to take last night with respect to the transfer fee. You know, whether or not to recommend it or not for town meeting, and whether or not to recommend it for the upcoming special town meeting in October or the regular town meeting, I guess, in May of next year. The select board elected to had a vote and elect and determined that they would not put this particular topic on the town meeting agenda for October. It didn't make any determination as to whether or not it would recommend it or not for the spring of next year. That's still up for discussion on their side. So a potential topic for our meeting tonight was if the select board were to put it on the special town meeting agenda in a month, would we have an opinion as to the appropriateness of this potential fee? So that's not the case right now. So it's much less of a time sensitive topic.
Phil, I have a question here. It's more kind of for me to understand the procedure here. So if there is a decision such as that has, some significant most likely significant financial ramifications. Is it basically the practice for the select board to make the decision, take that vote, and then finance committee would be issuing an opinion or a decision or recommendation? Or wouldn't you think that, the finance committee should provide recommendation to the select board, and then select board would be voting on an issue? I mean, I'm a little bit confused as to what is the proper procedure. Many are dealing with this kind of matters, frankly. Yeah. Mhm.
Well, I'll say what I think the latter is the case. So I think the typical scenario is that a matter is coming before the select board,
Mhm.
and they can either ask that the finance committee make a recommendation to help them make a decision,
Mhm.
or we can always, if they don't ask us, we can always make a recommendation, and it's up to them whether or not they want to sort of
Right.
listen to us.
Right. So, okay.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much up to the select board to decide whether they want to hear our opinion.
Yeah,
on the
that's always the
matter.
case,
So
right?
it's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
With everything except the budget, that's they need to listen to us there, but with all
right. But everything else would, even if it's something that has some financial ramifications, they can choose not to ask for our recommendation.
right, I mean, Mark, please chime in if I'm getting this wrong, but we are providing a advice and sort of a research-based recommendation to them, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, this is a bit of an unusual situation because we're talking about a special town meeting. Normally with the warrant, the finance committee would have a recommendation on any finance article.
I see. Okay.
So
But because it's going for the special meeting, then that's a different procedure then.
yeah, this is a bit of an unusual. We don't
Okay.
typically have a special town meeting in Great Barrington. Again, this is an unusual situation, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
so one reason for our meeting tonight was, in the event that the select board were to recommend that this fee go forward and be on the special town meeting agenda, it would be appropriate for us, and also necessary, given the timing, to at least discuss it tonight, if not make a recommendation.
Mhm. Okay,
So-
thank you.
Hopefully that clarified rather than confused, yeah.
So we can,
It's not entirely, black and white, but I'm getting the gist of it. Yeah, thank you.
but can we assume that if this were to move forward to the regular town meeting, that this would be part of the discussions during the budget season? Or no?
I suppose it would be, because we'd be looking for your recommendation on the warrant article.
Right,
So
yeah,
at some point during the budget process,
Right, okay.
this would be
I would
discussed.
agree, and Steve Bannon, he certainly made reference to the fact that, be careful to quote him correctly, he may be listening. I think he made reference that he would prefer, that this particular proposal go through a more normalized review process, which would potentially include recommendations from other committees, such as the finance committee.
Okay.
And Bill, can I, so we're not gonna have the CPA update tonight, is that correct? Because Richard couldn't make it, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, because, yeah, so I would want to have some information from that beforehand as well, so.
Right. So there are plenty of things to talk about when this topic returns to our agenda. I just don't think it's on our agenda now because it's been deferred to a potential spring town meeting.
Right, okay.
Just full disclosure, I did express views on this in the public input session roughly a month ago, as well as on a published letter to the Edge and the Eagle, etc. So my personal views are out there, but I did my best to make sure that I was not expressing the views of the committee.
Bill, I'll just say I thought you did a good job of saying that they were your views and not the committee's.
Okay. I tried to make that clear. Okay, so So this really gets moved down on the, this is just moved towards the spring agenda. Okay, and then, so the next topic is, obviously the important topic of the proposed school district merger, and the possibility of this committee making a recommendation with respect to how residents of the town vote on the topic at the town meeting in October. Just from a process standpoint, as I believe I mentioned before, my sense was that most, if not all, of the other town finance committees were expecting to make some type of recommendation to their residents on this topic. You know, I'm not certain, but I don't believe those have occurred yet, primarily because you know, this is still a bit of a moving target. My understanding is that the school district merger board is meeting again on this Monday night, the 26th. And the objective there is to agree and finalize on the proposal and the proposed new district arrangement. And then at that point, that would be the point where it would make more sense to determine our recommendation. You know, the timing, you know, we'll talk about the timing. It's you know, it's certainly compressing at this point, but you know, we could chat about it a bit tonight, however you all want to proceed. Our next meeting is on the calendar for October 17th. And again, the current scheduling for the special town meeting is October 23rd. So given all that, I think it makes sense to chat a bit about it tonight, but not make any recommendations or vote on any recommendations, but to basically have us all work towards being prepared to vote on a recommendation at our next meeting.
Yeah,
So, sorry. Phil, I just want to make sure I understand clearly what will be our recommendation. Are we looking strictly at the financial impact of it, or are we looking also at the intangible benefits of the merger?
That's a great question. I've thought about it a bit there. My sense is, I mean, the only action that the residents are being asked to vote yes or no on the topic, right? Just in one decision. But to me, you know, our recommendation, which probably should be written up and probably should be brief, should make it clear that we are expressing an opinion only with respect to the financial aspects of this. I think the educational aspects are best left to the educational experts. It's an extraordinarily complex undertaking that's taken multiple years and hundreds of meetings, and I would
Mark,
very uncomfortable expressing opinion on anything other than numbers. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mark, I don't see any need to share the screen at this point. It's hard to get in when you're a little window.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you wanted that financial information up for during the
Okay.
We'll come back to it. Yeah.
So,
there you go.
yeah, I guess I've been thinking a lot about this, and I've gone to I went to the big meeting, I don't remember, 3 weeks ago or something in down in Sheffield, and I'm feeling, I agree with Phil. I feel like our recommendation really can only be about the finances. I'll be honest, you know, I can't look over all their finances, look over all their curricular and everything else. But I think, and I guess if you guys don't mind, I'd like to share with you my sense about, and partly why I really am glad we're having this discussion is I'll share what I've taken away about the finances specifically. And also, I think we can only recommend for Great Barrington. I mean, we're not going to be, this may be very different for other towns, and I don't think we can try to figure what's happening out financially.
Oh, agreed.
So I jotted down some notes, and I'm throwing this out to all of you to perhaps, and I won't be able to make the meeting on the 26th, of course, because as a Housatonic resident, I'll be going to the DPU Housatonic water meeting. So I don't know what else to do. So as far as I can tell from everything I've read, I don't see this having a negative financial impact on the town. And I'm saying that now, as this is my sense right now, and I appreciate anybody who wants to argue with me so that we can think through it. And I see this in a variety of ways. One is that it seems to me there'll be fewer students choicing in to the high school, because the students who have historically from the Southern Berkshire Hills School District have choiced in will now be our students. And so instead of getting $5,000 from the state per student, we will get the total state amount for educating those students. It is true that we have some students who choice out to Southern Berkshires, but it seems it goes more in the direction toward Berkshire Hills and thus Great Barrington. So more revenue with reduced girls' school choice. That's one reason. The second reason I think it does sort of help us is it does seem it's not a massive share of the cost of the new school. And again, all of this, my understanding, is contingent on there being a new high school. If the new high school is not voted on, then the merger doesn't happen. But there is some cost sharing, and they did put out some information. I don't think it's a huge savings, but it's some savings on the new school. Then there's just the general economies of scale saving that seems, always when you go from smaller to larger. So that will benefit us. And then if there's a more robust vocational program, we will be less likely to need to pay to transport and pay the tuition to students who go to vocational programs. So those are the four reasons I see it as, at least as far as I can tell, not having a negative financial impact on Great Barrington. So that's my analysis.
Mm-hmm. So I would just say a couple of things. One of them is we have to be very, very careful about numbers that are assumptions, as opposed to, there will be assumptions about future enrollment. There will be assumptions about how students will behave, whether they choose, to choice in or not. I think it will be very important to do that. I really would like us to be, really work with real numbers. And if we don't have those real numbers and we are working assumptions, we either do some kind of a sensitivity analysis, or we really state pretty clearly these are assumptions, because things may change. We don't know. Costs will change. Lots of things will change. I think for me, this merger is definitely has a lot of components to it. The financial component is just one of many that people should consider, and I think I agree with you that altogether, this is going to be financially most likely a positive, positive thing for the town of Great Barrington. But I think we have to be very careful because I'm really not comfortable at all with some of the numbers that are being thrown around by different people about future enrollment, because I don't think anyone has those numbers. And if you look at the enrollment numbers, you see there is just such a volatility in those numbers, in the past numbers. And so I'm a bit, I'm not really comfortable making some of those assumptions that people are, because no one really knows. So that would be just my 2 cents to all this. But I myself, I'm hoping that it goes through and people just vote for the right thing, which I definitely believe this is the right thing, for the community and all the towns. And we don't know what will happen, but one way or the other, people sometimes have to make the right decisions for the future. That's what it is.
Mark, can I ask you to go back to the screen share? Sorry, Anne, but I just wanted to
Okay,
make one
that's
point
all right.
on that.
Sure. You want the same sheet
Right,
again?
just go back to the packet and those the Great Barrington summary on the district. Yeah. So
Do you want to make it larger?
yeah. I actually have spent a chunk of time trying to understand all the modeling that's been done. I think it's been done with a great deal of care and as much sort of precision as possible, perhaps too much. I certainly take Melina's point about the assumptions. There's a monstrous number of assumptions in here. I think the consultants have done a good job of trying to highlight the fact that all this is subject to very significant change based on actual outcomes. And so it's really hard to sort of manage people's mindset in terms of projections and what's an assumption and actual outcomes. It's also been particularly challenging as evidenced by that meeting of all the 8 towns that Anne was at and I was at, is that there's also a dispute on sort of what the current numbers are with respect to enrollment. So that was sort of a bit startling to me.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I guess it's been highlighted that the real enrollment data for this year would be released around October 1st. So I'm hopeful that might sort of put some of those concerns to bed about sort of where we are right now. I think that a major point that I would like to make today, and I think should be part of our recommendation to the select board, if you could just scroll down a bit, Mark, and just sort of make a bit of a what I hope is a Captain Obvious observation, is that this merger is not going to reduce our real estate taxes. This is in terms of if you look at the projections that were done with the best intentions and a great deal of precision, what they do is they will, based upon certain expectations of merger-based savings and economies of scale and some efficiencies based on the larger scale, as they will modestly reduce the rate of increase of the school assessment to Great Barrington.
Mm.
So I think that has to be, that's not it's not a way to sort of promote the merger, but I think just from a financial perspective, it's just a reality. It's not gonna cut people's tax bills. It's just going to slightly moderate the rate of increase over time based on the projections. So that's an important piece that just needs to be. I think that should be made clear in every conversation that we have. So just to kind of make sure people's expectations in terms of the dollar impact of the merger are realistic. It's certainly possible that those savings can be increased over time, but those are all driven by decisions that will be made in the future by the newly created consolidated 8-town merger board. So if they decide, to do things that will, potentially lower the fixed costs of the school district, that's up to them, and that may happen in the future, but there's no commitment that it will happen. And just to clarify the new school aspect, as I understand it, again, the vote is simply on the merger, and I believe there will still need to be a separate vote on financing the new high school, and I believe that's targeted for the spring town meeting. It may or may not happen, but that's targeted for a subsequent town meeting, either in the spring or perhaps another special town meeting. And if if the new school, as Ann said, if the new school is voted down again, I believe in all likelihood that the entire merger will be dissolved and be back to square one.
Oh, so it is conditioned on that?
Correct.
Right. So it's really, so the merger approval is conditional on the subsequent approval
of having the
high school.
new high school. I see.
Right.
Okay.
But
And
right,
between the merger discussion and that vote on the high school, I would hope and anticipate that there'll be a refresh update on a lot of the cost numbers associated with the new school.
Mhm.
That's always been a very hot
Right,
topic.
because that's also a bit vague number there, definitely. Yeah.
And my understanding, and from the the meeting down in Sheffield is that when we get the presentation about the new school, well, I guess we'll have already decided whether or not there'll be a merger. So we'll just get one or the other, whatever is.
But I think they are still, as I understand it, still pricing out.
That's what I thought, right? But
No, pricing out the new school versus a renovated
oh, that's right. Okay.
Monument Mountain.
Okay. Okay. Right.
But anyone who's undertaken any home renovation will probably bet on the newly built building as being the way to go. But again, that all will play out. So in terms of your sensitivity analysis question, Milena, I would say, you know, if there's something you want to see, then I think the time is now. You need to take a look at it and come up with your requests. I think the consultants, Jake and Lucy, have been, you know, very good at, you know, responding to special questions. And so,
but if I understood correctly, you are saying that really nothing, we will not have really the final financials or models until October 17th. No, when was it? September 26th, right?
I think the changes from the 26th will speculating. I'm saying if there are changes, I think there will be more governance related issues as opposed to
as opposed to the financials.
Obviously,
there.
we don't know that, but
Mhm.
you know, I would, you know, the timing is relatively tight now, so I would encourage you to, if there are things you want to see, we have to let them know.
Yeah, I will
I'm not saying
definitely.
that there's a massive amount of modeling and analysis that they've put together. So very often, if I have a question, you know, I ask it and they'll say there's actually like an 80-page report on that topic. And you have to find it on their website.
And
So,
is it, would you suggest that I reach out to Lucy or Jake, or who should I go to?
you know, you could reach out to them, or you could reach out to me and I could reach out to them, whatever you prefer.
Okay. Okay. So I'll work with you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And I mean, I kind of like your big headline. I think that's something that's really important. Just kind of setting up the expectations, maybe at that meeting, that this is not really about, you know, Great Barrington actually getting any financial cut here. This is not gonna, it's very unlikely, but you know, people need to think about it differently. This is really about the future.
Yeah. I just reflect back a bit on the cannabis
yeah.
tax and the local option tax for cannabis, and I think, you know, I guess I can't speak to how they got to that opinion, but I think some residents took a view that was going to cut their tax.
It's going to go there, right? Yeah.
And obviously that didn't happen. So I just, lessons learned there. I'd like to make sure that does, people don't have that view, or more importantly, we're not blamed for having people take that view.
Right. Sometimes people make those conclusions, even if you make it very clear that it's not the case. Yes.
Yeah, I guess I also just want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that any of these savings are going to have huge impacts. I'm not seeing places where I see it as going to add to the cost per student beyond what is the general increase every year on the cost of educating a student. But yes, I do not see this as reducing taxes in any significant way.
Right,
I just don't see it being the major contributor to any increase in taxes.
I think if we can be confident on that side, I think
again,
that would be awesome. Yeah.
Right. And I'm just throwing this out as my read. I'm certainly willing to be wrong here. It just, this is our first time as a committee talking about this.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
certainly. And yeah, I think, you know, one thing I learned at the Sheffield meeting that I really love to at some point, however this goes, is that Southern Berkshire uses rolling average enrollment to do annual town's contribution for the school assessment. And that helps to reduce volatility year to year. And we've seen some pretty volatile years in Barrington. I would love to, if the merger doesn't go through, I'd still like us as a district to talk about, or us as a large town in Berkshire Hills, I think rolling is a great way to sort of reduce year-to-year impact. So anyway,
Well, there is yeah, I agree. There is a lot of movement in the enrollments. I mean, for a couple of things that I noticed is that the enrollments definitely for a given cohort, the enrollments in kindergarten will be larger, but as those kids sort of proceed through school, it tends to decline. Their parents may decide to put them in another school or something or other.
That's very common.
They
Yeah,
leave the
yeah,
system,
yeah,
and then there's also just a lot of volatility. So there's been a lot of discussion or references that I've heard to the size of the Mount Everett High School senior class as being an important data point supporting the merger. The current senior class, if I'm remembering it correctly, I believe is either like 46 or 47. But next year it may drop significantly to
Wow.
28 or so. But
Oh, wow.
that's a statistical oddity, and will revert back to the mid 40s the following year.
Right.
It's still smaller, quite small,
that's-
quite much smaller than my high school class when I was a kid. But so that is just from a economies of scale point of view, I think that sort of is an important data point. So I would encourage you all to to sort of do a little homework on this point, and to make sure you're comfortable with it. If anyone wants to ask me where to find something, I'm more than happy to help. The consultants are very happy to point you in the direction of any information that you may need. And if we give them some lead time, they will do some, alternative math for us, or probably just point us to where it was already done for someone else. So there's a lot of information out there. It's a bit overwhelming on every aspect of the merger. Busing, everything. And it's quite controversial. Okay, so again, I think sounds like is everyone comfortable with the timing that we should be prepared to make some type of final recommendation at our next meeting on the 17th?
Sure.
And the other towns are also voting the same day or have different dates, or before or after? Do we know?
The town meeting or the
other towns?
I think the objective is to have all the towns meet on roughly the same day or the same day.
Okay.
I can't tell you if that's actually going to happen, but I think that was the plan.
Mark, do you know?
Right now, I'm aware that they're looking for town meetings in Sheffield and Great Barrington on the 23rd. I'm not sure about the smaller communities.
The other towns, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have a plan there. So I think that wraps up our agenda. It was made simpler by the select board actions last night. So moving right along. So we're skipping over the CPC committee update because Richard couldn't make it tonight. Hopefully he'll be able to join us at the next meeting. Any citizens speak?
We have 2 citizens attending at this point.
There.
No hands that I can see.
All right. Any media questions? Being none, I guess we move to adjourn. Any? Does everyone agree with that?
Motion to adjourn. Yeah.
Second.
All right, approved. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Okay, good night.
Good night. Thank you.